Hey guys, welcome back to Fins Up Ramley. And if you're new to this channel, we are a general NFL coverage channel with a spin to it. As I, a Dolphins fan, and Ashton over here, my co-host, a Rams fan, give you our Dolphin and Ram perspective and in-team analysis of each of their teams. So, if you like the Dolphins, the Rams, or NFL content, be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that like as it helps us out a ton. Today, Ashton and everyone watching at home, we are discussing after getting done with our NFC division by division projections, our NFC Power Rankings. We're going to go through 1 through 16 of the teams. We're going to start with reverse order, starting at the lowest and go to the highest on who we think are the best teams. Now, this might not mean the record will show the same as the power ranking because in cases like, for example, the Vikings, they have a tough schedule, but their roster is pretty decent. So they might be a little bit higher, even though their record projection wasn't as high for Ashton over here. But if you want to go check out our division by division projections and predictions, throughout this video. We're linked that up top, so go check those out. But without further ado, Ashton, I will let you start off with the number 16 pick, as I'm sure we're very much together on that pick as much as our audience is.
It sucks being a Ram fan to say it, but I think the lowest of the low will be Detroit. Um, I think you agree with me. I think this team as a whole is going in a positive direction. I really do. They're kind of blowing it up, trading away their franchise QB of 11 years to the Rams. Of course, they get a player that, we'll see if he still has some left in the tank. But he got shipped out for a reason. Detroit's gonna see what they have in them. Detroit's amassing a lot of picks. Um, they have a really, really good GM hired from the Rams. If you're noticing a theme, there's a lot of Ram elements now in Detroit. So I think they have positive direction. But Andy, I think they're going to struggle on both sides of the ball. Jared Goff has shown a lack in the last 2 years to be able to throw the ball down the field. And Detroit, let's say lack of weapons is very gracious because they have almost no one now. They lost Kenny Galladay. I know he wasn't the healthiest, but at least you had him. You're losing someone like Marvin Jones. Like you have a lot of people that you just lost. They didn't really draft any wide receivers. I think they got a really good tackle in Pina Sewell. I can't say his name to save my
Tough
life.
name, tough name.
Tough name, but really good tackle. I think he's gonna be great for them. But Jared Goff ain't throwing the ball to him, so he can have all the time in the world. But if your receivers aren't getting open at all, like you're not gonna have much choice. I mean, they have a few very young, unproven players, but in NFL, a lot of times that doesn't work out. So we'll see how they do. I like their running back core. It's fine. We'll see if the Georgia boy can actually take a step up from last season because he played good, but he had a lot of big moments where he failed. So we'll see if he can actually get some consistency. So Andy, this is just going to be a team that I think struggles, and the head coach is unproven. So
Yeah, Ashton, I mean, you look at the Lions, I don't think it's debatable. They're the worst team in the NFC right now. I mean, arguably, they could be the worst team in the entire NFL. As we will get to the AFC later, we can have that debate between them and the Texans. I mean, those are the two worst teams. There's not really a debate there. Um, but you look, I mean, they get Jared Goff, but Jared Goff struggled with a much better team in the Rams, top to bottom. So I don't expect any good things from Jared Goff. He's going to struggle. I mean, I know you agree. Their first round pick with Sewell is going to be great. He's going to help with Frank Ragnow down there in the line as they're young and they're improving. And I like you said, DeAndre Swift saw some good things last year. Need to see more. It's a better line than last year. So this team's going to be probably a run heavy team because you can bring in TJ Hawkinson, to help with the blocking as well. So it's going to be a run heavy team, especially when you lose four different receivers, two of them being as good as Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay was. and your number one receiver is Rashad Perryman, maybe. So it's not going to be a great team offensively. Defensively, they need their first round pick, their third pick last year in Jeffrey Okudah to make that step up that we just didn't see him make last year. It wasn't the worst rookie year, but it wasn't what you expect from a number three selection, the third selection in the draft, and that kind of caliber cornerback we expected him. So they
It,
need to step up
it
there.
it's just really crazy when you see someone undrafted like Darius Williams balls out, become a top 20 cornerback, top 15 cornerback, and your number 3 selection, Andy, is just getting dunked on over like Bashard Perryman.
Yeah, Ashton. They also I like the pick they got. I cannot pronounce his last name. Save my life. It's like Melafui or something. The cornerback at a Syracuse.
Melifanu.
I like that pick a lot. I think their cornerback,
How can I pronounce that?
if Akuda can make the step, I think they got a really good young duo cornerback group. So there's good things to like. No clue how the coach is going to do. It could be a great hire or it could be a historically bad hire. It
Biting
could be it's
kneecaps.
50-50, Ashton, but clearly there are the worst team in the NFC, I think. So that's not really too much of a debate. Moving on, Ashton, to the next team on our aggregate list, we have the number 15 team being the Philadelphia Eagles. Moving on from Carson Wentz, the Carson Wentz era. What will Jalen Hurts actually be as he is the full-time starter, Ashton? They go and they get Devontae Smith. Great pick in the first round. I think he's going to do great things for the Eagles, but this roster still defensively isn't all that good. Offensively, they're not too bad, but they still move on from the veteran receivers like Alshon Jeffrey, and you know very well as a Rams fan, getting Deshaun Jackson from these Eagles. I still think this team is about 2 years away, Ashton. I really do. I mean, they're not the worst team in the NFL, not by leaps. They're leaps and bounds better than the Lions, personally. But I still have them pretty low. I don't expect good things from them, but they are improving.
Um, I think they have a solid roster. They're one of those teams that was like kind of stuck in between wanting to completely burn it all down and trying to keep some of that core. If I was them, I would have traded away Zach Ertz. I would have just completely decided to rebuild, and they're kind of doing it half and half. The new coach is interesting to say the least. Um, I don't really have any faith in him as of now until he shows me something differently. And Jalen Hurts, to be honest, he reminds me a lot of the backup QB for the Steelers. What's his name? Starting in
Dwayne
Washington.
Haskins.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of Haskins. That's not a good thing. Uh, Not at all. So we'll see if he can succeed in a lackluster, talented offense. I think their defense has a few good pieces like Darius Slayton. We'll see overall. They have a tough schedule and they're going to struggle.
At number 14, we have the Atlanta Falcons, a team that offensively is still going to be great. I do think Matt Ryan is a consistently top 10 level quarterback, 4,000 yards a year. That's just who he is. And they go get the best tight end probably we've seen come from the draft since George Kittle back in 2017, if we're being honest, Ashton. Kyle Pitts is going to be phenomenal. He is that kind of tight end that can fit in any role, receiver, tight end. He can do it all for them. But the problem is that defense. That defense was terrible. They got even worse on the offseason. They lose Keanu Neal, a really good safety that they have. They lose Ricardo Allen as a safety who, I mean, he wasn't the best, but still, that's, depth pieces they're losing. They lost more than they gained when it comes to the defense. Personally, in my opinion, I don't see them going very far, especially in a division that has the Buccaneers and the Saints and the up-and-coming Panthers. So Falcons are the number 14th team for us, Ashton.
Yeah, Atlanta, I mean, the last 3 years, it's always been their offense is solid to good, even great. Like, I think 3 years ago, it was really good. But they just can't get their defense to work out. They've had solid players, but it just hasn't meshed together. Wasn't Grady Jarrett on the Falcons,
He
right?
was at one point, yep.
Yeah, yeah, great. Like they've had good players, it just hasn't worked out. I think the coaching wasn't there for a while, and again, like I don't even know the name of their coach now. I couldn't tell you. I don't even know what he looks like. That's not a good sign. Like I even know what the Eagle guy looks like. I have no clue what the Falcons coach looks like. So I mean that doesn't mean much. Well, I'll say this. I think they're in a bad spot, and they are even worse than like the Eagles. They're clinging on to what I don't think is a good core, and having to trade away Julio Jones but keeping Matt Ryan, it doesn't make any sense to me, Andy. It just doesn't. So, I mean, we'll see how they do, but I think they're gonna struggle.
I think the Falcons are very similar to the Eagles, Ashton, in a way that it's like they kind of want to half rebuild and half don't. Keep the veterans like Matt Ryan around, but trade Julio. So I think the Eagles and Falcons are kind of in that. This is going to be a year that they think they can compete, but they just can't. So you're going to see them go full rebuild next year. But moving on to the opposite about this next team, Ashton, at number 13 is the up and coming. I'm very interested for Carolina Panthers. You know how good Christian McCaffrey is. You know how good some of those defensive pieces are in like Brian Burns on the defensive line as they keep on improving. They do lose Curtis Samuel at that receiver spot, though. That will hurt them a little bit. But I love that pick in J.C. Horn to boost their cornerback. I truly believe he's the best cornerback in the draft. I know a lot of people will disagree because his interception numbers were really low, but when they don't throw it your way, Ashton, you know this very well with Jaylen Ramsey, you're not going to have a lot of interceptions. So
That's a good thing.
I think the Carolina Panthers are up and coming. I think Matt Rule is going to be the guy to get that job done. Not to mention they have one of, if not the best young offensive coordinators in the game in Brady. Love the guy. I mean, it's going to be really fun to watch this Panthers team. I'm excited for this Panthers team. Now, though they are not there yet in terms of talent as some of these other NFC teams, but they are 13th and they're very promising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they remind me a lot, like kind of if the 2015 Rams actually had good coaching. Like you have talent, you have pockets of talent on that team, but you don't have a cohesive team. You don't have a fully talented team to compete in all levels of play. But I think next year they will be there. I love the coach. I think Matt Rule has a lot of innovative ideas coming into the league. And Andy, I've seen Jaylen Ramsey play for like a year and a half, and I got to watch a year and a half of Marcus Peters. A lot of people say Marcus Peters is great, and yeah, he's a good cornerback. He gets a lot of picks, but I can tell you right now, Andy, the dude got burnt so much, like toasty burnt, and it was constant. Of course, he would get a pick or two like every other game, but that comes with a lot of risk and reward. Jalen Ramsey, I much far better have him because he just blankets people, and there's a reason why he's on 99 now. And it's just, I think Carolina got a diamond. Well, picking up J.C. Horn, me and you agree. I think out of all the players to come out of Carolina in the last 4 years, he's probably the best.
And that's saying something because we do have, Debo Samuel coming out, Javon Kinlaw coming out, even Clowney and Melvin Ingram, and even Stephon Gilmore. So if he can be like Gilmore is, he's got, a bright future, Ashton. Moving on, though, to a team that always has talent but never can produce. Both me and you had them at the exact same spot at number 12, the Dallas Cowboys. All the Cowboys fans are going to be pissed at us, Ashton, but the truth is the truth. They do get a pair of gems and linebackers, Micah Parsons and Jabril Cox, in the first and fourth round respectively. So I do like that Jerry Jones went and said, you know what, our defense is trash. Let me address that. But I mean, there's a lot of better teams than NFC personally to me, Ashton, defensively on the side of the ball. Offensively, we have the biggest question mark of all, and that is how will Dak Prescott respond from that terrible, gruesome injury he suffered early in last season? Because there's no guarantee he's back to that form he was last season, Ashton. You never truly know coming off of injuries how a person, especially as mobile and great as Dak Prescott was, will respond. On top of Ezekiel Elliott having a questionable year last year, to say the least. So this team has a lot of talent, but can they come back? That's why we had to have them at 12th out of these 16 NFC teams.
Yeah, Andy, I will say this for if you're a Cowboys fan, if Dak is fully healthy the whole year, I think you guys will go around 9 wins. And I think that's good enough to win the NFC East. I really do. 9 or 10 wins. The problem is you're not getting much further because of coaching. We're not saying you don't have talented team. You have like stars galore. You have a lot of great players, really good receivers, and CD Lamb. I mean, and uh, what I can't think of. Gallup is a really good
And
one. Like,
Amari Cooper.
and Mark Cooper. Like, you have really good players, and Dak is a great quarterback. But the problem is, like, again, coaching can get you so far. And you saw what a roster under, like, what the Rams, again, in 2016, under one head coach can be versus another. It's night and day. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't know how to use them and you're putting Amari Rodgers on, like, 7-yard slants, I mean, Andy, like, or you kick it when you're down 10 points in the divisional round. Like, sometimes coaching will make difference between winning or losing a season. So that's their biggest problem.
Yeah, actually, I mean, like you said, they have talent. It's just coaching. Coaching is terrible, and it's just what it is. But moving on, Ashton, to a team that's very interesting because of their rookie quarterback. Number 11, we have the Chicago Bears. I know you had them a little bit higher than I did, so they moved up a little bit. But honestly, Ashton, I think this team is good from top to bottom. I like them, but I'm just not sold on the Bears. I think last year they overperformed their talent level. Now, I'm a big fan of Justin Fields. He was my second ranked quarterback. I think he can turn this team around. But the question is, Matt Nagy has Andy Dalton as the day one starter. So how long will he stay as the starter? Because Dalton, I'm 90% sure will be there day one. Is this going to be like a Miami Dolphins thing where he comes in halfway through the season, and at that point, with some of their schedule, is that going to be too late for some of these games? So I got the Bears at 11, but I could easily see them after a couple of weeks moving into top 10, even maybe top 8.
Yeah, I mean, it's because their defense really is why I have them as high as I do. I really do think they have like great defensive players, and their offense just hasn't been able to put it together. And like, I think Justin Fields will be a great quarterback for them, but can they give him anything to work with? And right now, he really doesn't have much to work with besides one star wide receiver who's gonna clearly leave after the season. So I don't know, Andy. Like, are you gonna ride the Red Rocket the whole season? No. I guarantee you, Andy. How many picks do you think he's gonna throw against the Rams?
Honestly, I know this might shock you. I think one.
Oh, I was gonna say two. So I think we both agree he's gonna get an interception week one. I think they're gonna have a rough time against the better teams. At least with Andy Dalton starting. I think with Fields still, they will be competitive every game and they'll pick off a few.
Let's also not mention, Ashton, that Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn, they're solid edge rushers. They didn't have the best year last year, and they're not getting any younger. I think Khalil Mack will be better this year. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, he's still phenomenal, but they need to have better production from them too. They can't just be Raquan Smith there.
Can you imagine if the Rams actually pulled off that trade for Khalil Mack like they were trying?
It would be insane. It would, but
That that shouldn't be allowed.
moving on to the top 10, Ashton, the first top 10 team I'm very excited for. This is a team I expect amazing things, but we heard about the brawl at the Giants camp. Giants at number 10. It's very weird. They're a team that, like, now their off season's being weird, but the talent there is
They've
amazing.
had 3 players they signed retired like 2 days later.
Let,
That's so weird.
let me explain to people why I'm so high on this team. If you take away Daniel Jones in that offense, and I understand Daniel Jones' problem, which is why they're being held back offensively, They address so many things on the offensive side of the ball, Ashton, this year that Daniel Jones has no excuse. They get Saquon Barkley back from injury. They get Evan Ingram gets paired up with their new signing of Kyle Rudolph. So a pretty good tight end duo. Not the best, but Kyle Rudolph's no slouch. They go and they get Kenny Galladay, John Ross in the offseason and draft Kadarius Toney from Florida. So now they have a receiver core. I'm going to read this of Darius Slayton, Kenny Galladay, John Ross, Pettis, Sterling Shepard, and Kadarius Toney. They have so many speedsters, so many weapons on the receiving core, so great tight ends. I mean, Evan Ingram has so much potential, but it seems like he can never catch the dang ball. If he can figure out how to catch the ball, he's going to be a fantastic tight end. But he's got everything else. I mean, as Giants fans know, he's always got the case of the dropsies. But offensive line, not great, but it's serviceable. Offensively, they addressed their team last year, Ash. They were 31st last year. They're not going to be that bad. Defensively, they return almost everybody, and they go and they get Adoree Jackson at the cornerback. I'm very high on this team. However, they have we talked about it in our NFC East projection video. They have the toughest schedule outside of the NFC West. They play the Rams, they play the Bucks, they play the Saints, they play the Chargers, they play the Dolphins, and most of these games are on the road as well. That's what's holding them back. Talent-wise, they're right up there with breaching in that 8-7 spot, but we had them at number 10.
The Giants have everything but a QB, really. I think their defense is also low-key studded. Their defensive coordinator, I think, isn't the best. They could use with a change. They're that weird team where they're so close, Andy. They're so close, but they have a few hiccups and they're stuck on Daniel Jones, which I don't fault them for giving him one more year. Now, if they stick with him a year after, if he plays like he did last year, that's when you need to start being like questioning the decision making of the head coach.
Yeah, Ashton.
And
Right
they
above.
also are having multiple players just retire after signing them. Like it's been a weird offseason for the Giants. It's just like you're having fights between teammates on offense and defense, like fist fights. You're having your players talk about how they love being held accountable and then just retire 2 days later.
Very weird, Ashton. I know it's weird. But let's move on to a team that will win their division, and that's right above them, number 9, the Washington Chase Young football team. I'm sorry, the Washington football team. No, Chase Young, Ashton. He's amazing. Great rookie year. Gonna be a top 3 edge rusher either this season or next season. You can almost put that, as a guarantee. He's that dang good. They go and they get Curtis Samuel to help out Terry McLaurin. And they also get William Jackson, who was an up-and-coming cornerback last season as well. And they take from my Miami Dolphins, it doesn't affect me too much because of the cap hit he was, but they get Bobby McCain, who's a solid plug-and-play safety for them. So I like Washington's offseason moves. They go, but the problem is they're still not there on the offensive side of the ball. And the biggest problem is the quarterback. And you solve your issue at quarterback, which was what you had Jones last year. You had Heineke last year. You had the drama that was Dwayne Haskins last year. And, you're going to the offseason. You need to get a quarterback. And what do you sign? Who do you go for, Ashton? No other than Ryan Fitzmagic? Like, I get it. He had a great first couple games in Miami. But do you really think you can trust this man who has proven time and time and time again that he cannot be a consistent starter and has never been to the playoffs in his entire career? Like, you out there, that there's some Matthew Stafford haters because he has never won a playoff game or whatever. But at least Matthew Stafford's been in the playoffs 3 separate times. He's led his teams to the playoffs 3 separate times. Fitzpatrick's never done it. And I don't think he's going to be, what is this? He's like 30, he's like 36 or 37.
There's something about Fitzmagic and Nick Foles that make people want to believe that magically, like,
no,
there's a starter there.
You can have great runs, but Nick Foles, terrible regular season outside of 1 year in like 2016, 2014 area. with the Eagles. He had a fantastic year. Ryan Fitzpatrick starts out hot and always goes every time. He's not going to be the solution. That's what's holding Washington back from being a top 5 team, and that's the truth. So we have them at number 9.
So you're basically saying Fitz Magic is like a Little Caesars hot and ready pizza.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can really you agree with me. I truly believe.
Yeah, their problem is QB. They have good wide receiver core. Um, I love their running back group. I know you've said before that you've had some. You're
I
not in
don't I
love
don't
with
like,
Gibson.
I don't hate them. I just don't think they're going to be the answer is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, I think Fitzmagic will be throwing picks like out like it's candy. So it's just gonna be one of those problems where you're gonna have Chase Young out on the field way too much, and the man can only do so much. I know that watching someone who's a generational talent in Aaron Donald, and sometimes you just like look at him and he's like, I'm doing everything I can. Like I can't.
Yeah,
Sometimes these great players can't carry the whole team on their back, especially if
yeah,
they're on defense.
yeah, Ashton. Moving on to a team that, let's just say, in the comment section, Vikings fans definitely made their voice heard when you predicted them to go only having 2 wins. At number 8, we have the Minnesota Vikings. That kind of rectifies it a little bit, Vikings fans. I mean, you can't really disagree that they're going to be 8. That's a good spot for them. I like the Vikings a lot. I think injuries were a problem last year. They're going to get their injury guys back from this team last year. You still have Dalvin Cook there. You still have Thielen. You still have Justin Jefferson. So there's a lot to like in this team. They do lose Anthony Harris. That's safety. That will hurt. But the biggest question I think both me and you can agree is Mike Zimmer, because the Vikings always seem to be playoff team and then pretty bad. Playoff team, pretty bad. They're very roller coaster. They can never decide what they want to be. And I think that's always been Zimmer's problem is consistency on the team. And I know just like the 49ers last year, injuries were huge from that team last year. But Kirk Cousins is only going to give you a few more years. And I don't think that this team's going to be good enough to do anything past maybe a wild card berth.
Yeah, redoing it and thinking about it more, I don't think there'll be too.
Showing some regret, Ashton, I see.
Yeah, a little. Hey, I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. But I think like this team, they're like Kirk Cousins. The team is itself. It's a good team, but it's not great. And ultimately, I feel like coaching has held it back a little bit. Like they have some great quality talent, but like again, like Kirk Cousins, he a lot of I know a lot of Vikings fans will say he's kind of like Stafford, but no, like the Vikings have had great rosters. Like last year, the roster for the Vikings wasn't a bad roster, like the Lions constantly have. You you have to be able to come in the clutch, and they're similar to the Chargers. They just lose a lot of close games, and they're also that team that'll blow out a team and then next weekend get blown out by a Browns team randomly. It's just like you don't know what to expect from them besides like 8 or 9 wins and maybe a playoff win if they get a miracle throw.
Let's move on to number 7, a cap-ridden team that we're going to get flagged for comments section for saying they're too high or even too low on this list. That's New Orleans Saints, Ashton. Let's go through the list of their losses just to show why they're at this position. Jared Cook, Emmanuel Sanders, Janoris Jenkins, Trey Hendrickson, and oh yeah, the generational franchise quarterback and Drew Brees retired. They lost a lot of players, Ashton, and they only gained from the free agent signing one fullback and Alex Arma. I love the fullbacks, Ashton. You know that. Juszczyk, DeMarco, they're good guys, but can't lead a team in today's offense. What keeps them above water, keeps them this high on the list for me, Ashton, is they still got Michael Thomas. They still got Alvin Kamara. They still got Marshawn Lattimore. They still got Cam Jordan. They still got some key pieces there. Their offensive line is still pretty good. And their draft, Ashton, I am in love with their draft. They're one of the best draft day picks for me. They get Peyton Turner, they get Pete Warner, they get Paulson Adebo, Ian Book there. He could be a stud pick in that 4th round, and the offensive tackle Landon Young in the 6th. I love their picks. 5 of their 6 picks to me were hits, which is very hard to do. Now, it could change. We never truly know. I think the draft picks, on top of still having some of the core pieces and having a good coach in Peyton, I think the Saints are still going to be that team that barely scrapes by the offseason into the postseason, but they're not going to go far. This team is just taking too many hits. And how much can we trust Jameis Winston to not turn the ball over?
This is a team that thinks starting Taysom Hill is a good idea. And I hate when Saints fans are like, but he went 4-0. I'm like, you realize you played a Broncos team without a quarterback? Literally no quarterback. No quarterback. You can't speak. You barely got away with it. Like, no. No.
No.
I think famous Jameis. We'll see if he can actually fix his bakery problem, as urinating tree likes to call it, where he cooks up.
Cook up those turnovers.
Yeah, he loves to pop them in the oven and just start shooting them out. Yeah, Saints, you're in for a long season. You guys lost a lot of big players. You still have like people like Cam Jordan and stuff like that. You've got an impressive amount of people re-signed for your cap issues, but I just don't think writing off all your cap issues for another year or two for Taysom Hill is a great idea. I think Ian Book, I really like Ian Book. I think he was a great quality QB to pick up in that 4th round. I actually think there's a chance he might be starting at the end of the year.
Ooh.
Especially if they get out of playoff contention somehow. Because let's be honest, Andy, the Bucks are winning this division pretty easily. So the question is, can they get that wild card spot? And I would say they have a decent schedule. They don't have a really hard one, so that benefits them a little bit. But hopefully they don't go with Taysom, because I feel like if they start him after 3 games, he's gonna start being awful. Like that's a fine person to go with if you have a 3 or 4 stretch where he's not, or like where he's the starter. But after that, Andy,
4 of the next top 6 teams are from the NFC West. That's crazy. That's how tough this division is. At number 6, though, the Arizona Cardinals, an up-and-coming prospecting team that is 100% held back by Cliff Kingsbury. They had some great draft picks in Xavier Collins to team up with the young second-year guy coming in Isaiah Simmons. I think they're going to have a young, exciting linebacker core to watch out for. Of course, J.J. Watt comes in, Malcolm Butler comes in, even A.J. Green comes in, even James Conner comes in. So some veterans there that are going to help with the depth chart. You have Kyler Murray, who at times last year looked phenomenal, and at times also couldn't get the job done. You look at that Miami game where Tua played better than Kyler Murray in that game if you go back and watch it, and the Dolphins won because of it. So Kyler's got to fix that going into year 3, but sky's the limit for him and his ability. He's a fantastic quarterback. We know how good their receiving core is with D Hop and Green and Isabella, and now Rondell Moore from Purdue. So I like this team a lot, Ashton, but what holds them back? Cliff Kingsbury. The air raid does not work. It didn't work at Texas Tech with Patrick Mahomes, Ashton. They could never do anything. And that's in the Big 12. And they're not even that good of a conference anymore, especially now, you college football fans out there knowing that Texas and Oklahoma is skedaddling away because of how bad the conference is turning into. If you can't win with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback using an air raid system, what makes you think you're going to come in the NFL with a worse quarterback, with a better receiver core? I get that. But the air raid has proven, it's been 2 years, it has not won them any games. It's only lost them games. And I see them still, the talent's there. They're the 6th best team talent-wise in the NFC, but the coaching is holding them back from being a true contender.
Yeah, I mean, they are one miracle play away from being a losing record. And with that, there's no excuse the last 2 years they should have a losing record with Kyler Murray as a QB and the talent they have had. I think they made good moves roster wise, but again, roster can only take you so far. You just see some of the games like they lost to a backup Rams QB. Like uh, at the end of the season, when like it's win or go home, like you have to win to get in, and they couldn't do it. Um, I think Kyler Murray has some limitations, but overall he's still a really solid QB. Um, I'm expecting Kingsbury, if he doesn't make the playoffs again, to probably get fired, Andy, and deservedly so.
Moving into the top five, and for the only reason they're in the top five is their quarterback, the Seattle Seahawks, Ashton. Russell Wilson keeps them number five. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Chris Carson. That four group right there, those four players, are the reason they're number five. They're so good together. Their offense got them 10 wins last year.
Drafted a really, really good wide receiver, too.
I'm going to be honest with you, Ashton. I don't like him. I don't like Dwayne Eskridge. I really don't. And I know that might, make some fans, Seahawks fans and just normal fans upset. I don't like what I see from Eskridge personally. He's not on my rookies to watch radar from the Seahawks. And with that being said, I don't like their draft. And even if you do like Eskridge, Ashton, like you
they
do,
had 2 picks.
even if you like Eskridge, they didn't need to draft a wide receiver.
Oh yeah, it does kind of feel like they were just like trying to piss off the Rams by being the pick ahead and being like, "Oh, you want a wide receiver? Well, take him."
Well, you look at the Seahawks, they have no defense, Ashton. They got worse than last year, and that's hard to do. They didn't address it whatsoever. And the offensive line still is not that good. And Russell Wilson's going to be running for his life another season. And if he keeps getting aside like this, you better believe he's going to be in the same boat as Aaron Rodgers was, either demanding something change now or he's going to be shipped out of Seattle because he won't play for them anymore. And this is a team that if one person on that offensive line or receiver core or Chris Carson again or someone gets hurt, they could miss the playoffs this year because the only thing holding them back or holding them up is Russell Wilson and Metcalf with Lockett.
It honestly is a miracle he hasn't been hurt. I think he's one of the reasons why I've loved him as a QB is because his decision making is top notch. Not just the when to throw, how to throw it. He has all the talent in the world, but he knows when to run and he knows how to slide. Something that always gets mobile QBs, and that's why he's been able to stay healthy. So it's a miracle with that O line. He's been able to do what he's been able to do. So he keeps them in games or every game, honestly, and that's how they won so consistently. I truly believe that, and that's a credit to him and credit to Seahawks organization for drafting him when they did. Steal of a player's great QB. But Andy, I think they lack overall talent to be able to compete with some better teams.
This next pick we agreed on. That is the injury-prone 49ers. I think we can both agree, as we did, this team is fantastic top to bottom. Trey Lance could be the starter and could turn this organization back into
one QB in the draft.
He was my third for reference, but I will admit, out of all the quarterbacks, he has the highest ceiling for me. His potential is through the roof. It's just, can he reach that potential? I think Trevor Lawrence is obviously the best day one ready player, but I don't think he has the most talent overall. But they also get Trey Sermon. I think he's going to be a fantastic running back to help out the 49ers as they do need a better running back core. But we know what this team has. They have Bosa. They have Armstead. They got Debo. They have a lot of talent. However, Richard Sherman's got some problems. We saw in the offseason. He's not going to be playing most likely this season. He's going to be fixing those problems. But team is still fantastic. They got a great coach, really, really great organization. I think the 49ers still are a great team. If they're healthy, they're easily the second NFC West, easily a playoff team. They're the fourth best team if all goes right.
Yeah, I mean, this team is a collection of defensive stars. I think the offense will even become better with a dynamic playmaker, which I think eventually he the new drafted QB will end up becoming. Jason Verrett, I love Jason Verrett. I think he's a top notch player. Losing Shaquille Griffin. Oh no, that's Seahawks. No, losing. Uh, I'm trying to think of his name. Former Seahawk. You just said it. Uh,
Oh, Sherman, Richard
yeah,
Sherman.
yeah. Losing Sherman. I think that will cause them some issues on the boundaries against teams with like top-notch wide receivers because Verrett can only cover one person, Andy, and they were known to have like very thin depth wise. I mean, even before the injuries in the cornerback position. So it'll be interesting to see if they can bolster that up before the season and just stay healthy relatively because they kept on losing all their top big players. Can Jimmy G stay healthy? Will he be the starter? Like, how are you going to split that up depending on how you're doing? It'll be very interesting to see. We keep on getting told how great of a coaching staff they are with only one winning season in the last three. So I think eventually you have to get to a point where you have to start demanding real results. Uh,
Okay. I wouldn't go that far. They made it to the Super Bowl, not last season, but the season before. The year before that was a rebuild year that no one thought they would make it, and last year was injuries. So I get what you're saying, but they've done enough to warrant a complete confidence in that group.
Well, I mean, going into the season, I agree. Give him another. I wouldn't fire him after last season, but if let's say they go 4 or 5 wins, Andy, or six, like that, you have to start questioning him, and put him on the hot seat next year at least. We'll see. I think they're gonna do good. I really do like the team overall, and I think if they started the rookie week one, I think they would be a top tier NFC team.
Hot Rod is back, baby, as the Packers are our third best team in the NFC. Rodgers, Jones, and Adams. Wow, they are back. I think getting Amari Rodgers in the third round is going to help that receiving core that desperately needed some help. But Ashton, they lose their center and Lindsley. They also lose Rick Wagner. So they lose some of their offensive pieces, offensive line pieces that won't help. But still love this team. I think they got Tunyon and Sternberger, who I think are going to be up and coming tight ends, and they're going to be better than people expect them to be together. And defensively, they're not. I wouldn't say they're great, but they're still very serviceable with Savage and Rashawn Gary. And I do like their first round pick in Eric Stokes out of Georgia to help with the cornerback room. So I really still like the Packers. I think LaFleur's got what it takes. I think Aaron Rodgers desperately wants to win now. So I have them being the third team
Mhm.
and going pretty far in the playoffs.
Yeah, Andy. It's a good coach, uh, good roster up and down with a top three QB. That is going to be a top-notch team. I think their defense, Andy, especially when it comes to air coverage, has a lot to be proven outside of their number one corner and Jair. So we'll kind of see if their safeties and cornerbacks can step up, and if that defense can kind of hold down, lock down a little bit more to allow Aaron Rodgers a little bit more like going off. Because it seemed like last year he was playing mad, Andy, and you do not want to play against Aaron Rodgers when he's angry.
The next two teams we flip flopped. Shockingly, your Rams comes in at number two, as I had them number one and you had them number two, and they are going to end up as number two, our second runners up, because we're going to give spoiler alert the Buccaneers at number one. So we're kind of talking both of them together. Uh, I get why these two teams, Ashton, are definitely the teams to beat. I think the Rams edged them out. But I do know that Cam Akers getting injured does kind of warrant them at a second place now in the power rankings. But look at the Rams; they're great. Matthew Stafford gets traded. That's all you really needed to do. I mean, you return all your defensive guys for the most part. I know you lose John Johnson, and that will hurt somewhat. But I think you can agree you got some depth there that will be enough to step in. I do really like some of your defensive line draft picks, and I know you got Brown down there, and who's your edge? Here's your left end guy. Um,
Leonard Floyd?
no, the rookie. I can't think of his name. It's
What?
it's it's Brown and who's the
Ernest
other?
Brown?
Yeah, is that who I'm talking about? I think that's who
Yeah.
I'm talking about. I think he's going to easily be fighting for that number one spot. I don't think Ashawn, what's his last name? I cannot think of it, but
Robinson?
Robinson. Yeah. I think that Brown's going to take him over, and I think playing alongside Donald will help. I know Floyd plays good alongside Donald. Obviously, you have a great cornerback duo with Jaylen Ramsey number one and up and coming D Will and Darius Williams. I like the Rams. I do a lot, but I see why they're number two because Cam Akers got hurt. Your running back depth is shaky because there's a lot of unknown players. So we'll see what happens, but receiving is always good. And then number one, the Buccaneers for us, Super Bowl champions. What can you say? They don't lose anybody except for what I think Antonio Brown is coming back. So they didn't lose a single person. And they went and they got Giovanni Bernard to even add even more running back depth. So they get Kyle Trask as a maybe a replacement for Tom Brady eventually. They get KJ Britt, a prospect to say the least, linebacker from Auburn that I like. But same team coming back next year that won the Super Bowl. How can you not say they're number one?
Yeah, Andy. I am more excited going to the season for the Rams than in 2018. I was excited then, but it was kind of uncertain in certain parts of the roster. But going into the season, our biggest losses was Troy Hill and John Johnson, like you said. And I know some people don't watch Rams, wouldn't know the name Terrell Burgess, but he was drafted in the third round, and he was a stud. The three or four games he played across from John Johnson, he started across from John Johnson, played great, got hurt. Um, I believe it was against the Giants. I don't remember exactly. He got hurt, and then you end up getting number 199, as he liked to talk about when he picked off Tom Brady twice, is I'm the better 199, and that's something to say, Andy. When you start talking about being better than Tom Brady, don't know about that, but he played great, honestly, Andy, and I think we have a lot of depth and safety. Losing Cam Akers hurts a lot. I think he had a really good end of the season. You're starting to see a superstar emerge. He gets hurt, sucks, but really Darrell Henderson all of last year also had his moments. He statistically wise, he almost matched Cam Akers for like every stat when it comes yards per game, everything. I don't think he has the same talent as Cam Akers, but I think he'll be suitable for this year. Uh, but if you're going to have a major injury in any position, running back is probably the one you want to have if you get the pick. It sucks, injuries happens. The Rams have been kind of lucky when it comes on the injury front the last 4 years. Really one of the healthiest teams in all the NFL. But we've been getting a little nicks. We had a scare with Matt Stafford's hand a few days ago. But overall, Andy, how can you not be excited when you get someone of the caliber of Matthew Stafford? Anyone who's watched him knows he has a lot of talent. Who knows if he can utilize it with a better team? But he's had a lot of talent for a while. We'll see if he can put it to use, and we'll see if him and Sean McVay can get what they want with what they always dreamed of having. Matthew Stafford always dreamed of having a top 10 offense and defense to work with roster wise, and Sean
He's had that
McVay,
once. Don't you forget that. He's
yeah,
had it once.
yeah, and Sean McVay has never had a top 10 QB, what he thinks is a top 10
Let's say
QB.
still doesn't, but
Well, things. So we'll see. It's a good experiment. We've never seen this in the NFL before. A QB who's thought to be really good, with a bad team, stayed for it so long, and never went anywhere else, and then went to a good team. It's a really unique situation, and we'll see how it works out. And then Tampa Bay, it's Tom Brady. Any team with Tom Brady, um, hate him or not, I think he's the best QB to ever do it. I think his rings speak for themselves. Um, he just knows how to make all the reads. He doesn't have the best arm talent. He never really has, but he knows how to just dissect any type of defense. Just what can you
I
do?
do. I do like the comparisons. 2 years ago, a lot of NFL pundits and fans, saw the Browns offseason moves and like, this team's going to be great. Super Bowl contenders, Browns, right? They missed the playoffs. Last season, the year after that, Buccaneers do the exact same thing, and I was high on them. But I know you were like, let's take a step back, but they proved everyone wrong. I know, they kind of went into the playoffs, got an advantage of playing Washington, even though they almost lost to Washington with no really quarterback, and then they didn't have the
Drew
hardest
Brees
path.
had a terrible game.
They didn't have the toughest path to the Super Bowl. I mean, we're being honest there, but they proved everyone wrong and they beat the Chiefs. So their team to beat this year, they're that good, Ashton. But so that, guys, is our 16 NFL power rankings for the NFC. We will do this again for the AFC after we do our 4 AFC divisions. We're very excited for the upcoming season. I know when we're recording this, the Hall of Fame game is tomorrow night, so we're gonna watch some of that.
Football.
Steelers, Cowboys. We got football back, guys. Go enjoy it. Be safe out there and enjoy it because football is back.